Hello, listeners. Welcome to yet another episode of the Startup Catalyst. Special guest today is one of our esteemed mentors, Abisheik Aravindan. Abisheik is apart from the legal fraternity, he is a partner at GRAD Company, and a seasoned startup mentor as well. I'll let Arvind complete the introduction. Abisheik, sorry.
Yeah. Hi, thanks for first of all, having me here. It's my privilege, to speak to the only person on earth who completed a 9-man challenge with a broken wrist. It's absolute privilege for me. So yeah, so like I'm in like pretty much you could tell I'm a native of Coimbatore. I've been
Mhm.
here all my life. Did
Yeah,
my CA here, qualified. I'm a chartered accountant by profession.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you could say accidentally or luckily, I fell into the space of working more with startups. Uh, Pretty interesting journey from, right from the beginning of my journey. I've always been mostly working with startups. Like, I think the journey would be interesting, to like when I started right after qualifying, I was back then running a skill training company for colleges, college kids primarily in taxation, practical training on GST, income taxes and stuff. And so because of which I used to travel to most of the colleges in Coimbatore. We take classes there because it's mandatory for colleges to invite NACA condition stuff. So we did work with a lot of colleges. So one college, one such college principal introduced me to the incubator which they recently started. I was a freshly qualified chartered accountant back then, and I was also trying to build my own startup, primarily in edtech. But I was like, didn't have right co-founders with me back then, so I was figuring out what should I do? Should I learn coding and build my platform myself or something like that? I was figuring out right after CA. So introduced me to the incubator. I visited the incubator, and it's Coimbatore-based college and incubator. And the manager was there, so he said like you just freshly qualified. I told him so my offer was this, I'm a chartered accountant. I'm still figuring out, but I being here is definitely pretty much useful for you and other startups which you have because one I can advise them on taxation and other stuff, and number two I'm also planning to build my own company. If I build two, I'll become an incubator of yours. So give me a space, free space here. That was the demand. It works for both of us. So after a lot of thinking, he said, no, we are tied up with Vakil Search, we are tied up with a lot of other. So no, we don't want. If you want some co-working space kind of arrangement, let's think about it. Then I decided I had an office back then, small office, so I decided no, it doesn't work, and I came out. And again, after a lot of thinking and whiling away like some three good months after CA, due to some accidentally I ended up becoming a junior partner in the audit firm which audits the entire the educational institutions accounts. So again I go back to the same incubator and now I tell them that so I'm a junior partner in the firm which audits your entire university or like stuff. Now I want the same, space or an MOU with you so that, I can work with your startups and, do something. This time there is no question asked because the chairman put me through, right? So then, it was good, So I started like working with the incubator from that point onwards. Right from, they are an AAC regulated, AAC affiliated incubator. So with respect to the AAC stuff, reporting, and with respect to setting up the policies in taking the startups, some initial cohorts, some initial training for the startups, and slowly, so I also, so this is one side of my career. On the other side, I was a junior partner in the firm, the old Gen CA firm in Coimbatore, pretty big. They had a team of 60, 70 people working back then, 4 years back. So I was handling statutory audits and valuations for the firm, where we did valuations of multiple PSUs, primarily all certification-based valuation for PSUs and other companies. So I was exposed to this. So I developed a keen interest towards valuation and numbers by doing all that. So I decided I want to specialize in valuations. I want to become the best, business valuer of sort. So I decided, okay, let me specialize, and I immediately enrolled myself in the New York Stern Business School where Aswath Damodaran teaches. So many of people who knows valuation, the
Yep,
fraternity
yep.
know Aswath Damodaran. So I enrolled myself there. Pretty costly back then, but still I was okay to invest some 3-4 months of my salary into this. And I did my valuation course, initial valuation course, gained some good knowledge into valuation. And so this is I was upskilling myself on one side, and the other side, opportunity started, knocking my doors. So at one point I decided, being a partner handling, statutory audits and valuations doesn't work, and I told them, we can separately work on the VC. So that's when I, understand the whole picture of how the venture capital funded businesses, the requirements of venture capital businesses, funded business is totally different. The cycle is different than a family run, SME, or a family or a proprietorship owned SME, which were most of our clients back then. So the financial requirements, the dynamics, even what they expect from a CA itself is totally different. That's what I understood, by working with, two sides of the poles. And I decided there is a huge scope, just, becoming a CA for a venture capital funded business, acting as a CA for venture capital business and advising on, on them on the right lines itself is a huge scope. It's a gray market, at least in this region. I was very quite sure in Coimbatore I'd be like, the only person back then. But I was also quite sure that Tamil Nadu itself has very few number of CAs who can rightly advise the venture capital funded businesses or businesses which are going to raise funds. That was after discussion with a lot of my friends, I came to this hypothesis, and then I decided I'm going to quit the firm where I was earning quite handsomely, and life was set because already they made me a partner there. But still I decided like there's no vision alignment. I want to do something different, and I quit from there. Started my own consulting firm called GRAD Consulting, or GRAD Company, and along with three other friends or three other partners who are same my batchmates. So one sit in Bangalore, and two other partners now are here with me in Coimbatore. But back then they were sitting in their own natives, which is Pollachi and Tirupur. That's how we started. And today, if you see, we advise most of the early stage startups in this Congo region. We work with most of the incubators in this region. We also managed to, since the skill set which is required for advising a startup and advising a multinational is quite similar, we also thought that we should diversify into that, and slowly we also started working with multiple, MNC subsidiaries in India. We also managed to get some good number of multinational subsidiaries as clients. I think 4 years been very eventful journey,
That's
and
quite a wealth of experience, I would say, Abhishek. But what's your reading on the startup ecosystem as you see right now, based on the interactions? I mean, we hear something in the media, but obviously everyone's views is different. So what's your take on where do the startup ecosystem in Coimbatore stand right now, and maybe pan India, of course?
see, Coimbatore is pretty unique, but we always, one thing specific, which I be proud about Coimbatore is, Coimbatore entrepreneurs are very strong in their fundamentals. They are very clear about, the first principles of business. There was a time in the market when, everybody chased revenue, everybody, went behind valuations, but I think entrepreneurs from Coimbatore always knew it's all about cash flows and there is nothing to do about, revenue. That's something, we were very clear about as a community in this region. But yeah, today if you see the markets have corrected it so much, I used to tell people there is always a difference. The price and value, though used very interchangeably, are not the same. So price is what you pay and value is what you get. So we know the value of the businesses, or we have been very clear about it. That's one thing, I always, recognized. And today market realizes that they understand profits are more important. Even VCs, even Indian, venture capital ecosystem is very nascent. We are just, I think, say 8-9 years old. Not even much funds in India have completed their one cycle. I mean, 8 or 9 years. So just now it is closing. So many funds, many companies are now coming for IPO just because they can give liquidity to their investors, or LPs,
Right.
you would
Hmm.
call them. So just now they are completing there. So now only the even VCs are understanding the full cycle of how the venture capital ecosystem dynamics works in India. Still they are figuring out, and even same way founders are also figuring out, you could say.
Hmm.
So now market really understands that uh, profitability is more important than revenue, and the fundamentals are much more important.
Hmm.
And there was one crazy time in the market, and you would also noted when Swiggy, being a private player, was priced more than, or I mean, priced more than Zomato, who was a listed player.
Hmm.
There's a
Yeah.
crazy time in the market. Private companies being offered much more higher multiples than listed peers with much more liquidity.
Very
So,
interesting point that you mentioned. And it would be
yeah.
interesting to see with the Swiggy listing coming up, what are the
Yeah,
reality were, right?
they are offering at a discount. I think it's finalized. They have filed the IPO papers also. They are offering at a discount. I think Zomato is being now
Yeah,
valued at 15 billion, but Swiggy is planning to come at some 12 or 11 billion only
that's right.
valuation.
No, but
So
then of course, what they want to list right now, it's fine. And how the market reacts
market
once
reacts
it
to it.
gets listed, that would make
Definitely.
it a lot of interesting. Of course, Zomato has its ups and downs, right? I mean, obviously, what you see Zomato today is not what it was when it got listed, right? So,
Very true, very true.
and I think that's where the VCs go wrong, right? They give too much emphasis to their view on the startup, and they don't realize, especially
Discount the market.
yeah, especially a B2C company, right? I know VC has no business. Sorry, I hope no VC is listening, but VCs have no business to overrule or try to dominate the level of valuation, because market determined forces are better equipped to be able to do that. But then, of course, it takes a long time for a startup to reach that stage, right? And you live in a halo for a very long time till you're exposed to the market. But as a mentor, what's been your experience? If you could cite some names of the startups, what kind of work did you do with them? Where did you help them? What was the result?
So, like, primarily, when we started, I started only with valuations, as I told you. So I had,
Hmm.
startups in determining valuation, how to structure their, the initial round, which they had. Let's say with incubator, let's say you had some funds, you want to invest in one of your portfolio startups. Incubators didn't have any clue about how to invest. They were like,
Mhm.
please, Abhishek, help me in determining the valuation of the company. How much should I stake? Should I ask him? This guy doesn't even make revenue. How can I value him? Right? All these are the questions, which normally people come.
Downloads,
No, I just, I'm now.
eyeballs, views.
That's all vanity
There are
metrics.
multiple parameters, Abhishek. How can you ignore all of them?
It's very
Companies have actually raised millions through that.
I know, that of all. So it's vanity metrics. I don't believe in all that. It's
Yeah.
all bullshit. I mean, sorry to use an offensive word, but
No, no, no. Obviously, you belong to a community which is the job is to find these out and segregate them out.
so what I tell them is, do an unpriced round. Keep it simple. Even just
Yeah,
when you get money from a startup India seed fund scheme, because that will be
yeah,
the primary money which many startups invest. They don't let you invest in. So even this many startup incubators are not aware. You cannot invest
yeah,
your money as an equity. You only have to invest your money as a debt or a convertible instrument. You
yeah,
cannot invest as an equity. The startup India seed fund scheme doesn't allow for it. So which many incubators are not aware of,
yeah,
surprisingly.
yeah,
So, like, we help them do an unpriced round, structure their, CCDs or, convertible notes or a CCPS which they want to invest, and we help
yeah.
them connect with lawyers to draft the agreements and get
Right.
it done for them. So those are many occasions, and even sometimes startups come to us, tell that my friends are interested to invest in my company, but they don't know how to do it. So we organize the funding round, private funding round for them, circulate the SHA term sheets, get it signed, and do the compliance MCA and get it done for them. Those sort of consulting, which I think this region needs all that. See, even if you see you see the ecosystems of Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, and all, this could be a very less value adding service, but I think this adds more value for this region because that awareness is still not prevalent, because Coimbatore is a very new market for venture capital funded businesses. I mean, just now Coimbatore is seeing all VC funds coming into for early stage space. Though there are many PE deals which happened in the past, but
Hmm.
for VC is very, Coimbatore is a fresh market. There is, and not many consultants also. Today some, like before, let's say many people told me, that's how I know. So before I started, and like told the market that I've been into this space, most people have, approached consultants from Bangalore to or Mumbai or, to like Delhi to support them in their fundraising early stage, and which are obviously referred by the investors because only they have
Yeah.
access to them. This is how been the norm for Coimbatore or Chennai or even for entire Tamil Nadu, you could say. Chennai, now few consultants are there, but yeah, apart from this, or you have to go to a pretty big player who charges bomb, like it's again not possible for a early stage company. So once I started, I think one of my startups have told, I mean, good that we have you now. We can anytime come and meet you and discuss. So that's been the impact I believe I've done to this region, and I want to do it now. Bring grow my firm and do more of it. Maybe progress. Now I'm also working on some SME IPOs with few clients. So
Hmm.
we also worked in an M&A deal as an private advisor for the founder, where it's
Yeah.
quite a huge deal. It was a listed company acquired their company. So
Yeah.
similarly, I'm also trying to progress, like as my clients come to me and ask Abhishek, we want help. So yeah, I mean, as I told you, right, my journey was like this. I started from valuation, advising on valuation. Then founders or incubators came to me and told, I have a term sheet, but I don't understand this. Can you help me understand this? They're like, yeah, I can do it. So then I help them understand term sheet. Then like they came to me. I mean, Abhishek, I have an SHA with me. I don't understand anything of it. So I like, can you help me understand it? Like, yeah, I can do it. So then I did that. Then
Yeah.
like they came to me. Then like Abhishek, we have a DD going on. Like they're having a lot of papers and stuff. We don't understand any of it. Can you help us close the DD? Yes, I can do it. So like as my clients' requirements evolved, as my clients evolved, I had to upskill myself to that in work. I also had some good connects in Bangalore circle where
Yeah.
I have an office in Bangalore. So my partner is based out of Bangalore, and I'm also a part of few organizations in Bangalore. I also hold some office bearer positions there, which really
Hmm.
helped me to connect with relevant people, understand if I don't know, and bring that knowledge to this region and cater the requirements of this
That's
region. That's
interesting.
how.
Now you mentioned you've been involved with these startups at the different stages, right? From valuation to SHA to DD to term sheets,
Exactly.
maybe to an IPO at some point of time at some day.
Hopefully.
But startup journey obviously is tough, right? Entrepreneurs go through a lot of tough times. We could probably help them reduce the number of instances of those tough times
Exactly.
if you are able to tell them what mistakes to avoid, right? So, what are the mistakes that you have observed entrepreneurs and founders make, which they should avoid? Maybe just two or three of them. You can be very brief and crisp on that.
Okay. Okay. See, I think number
One, I
one
think you
would
rightly mentioned, right? I mean, not go for a equity round, go for a CCD. And as an angel
unpriced
investor, I
rounds.
always felt more comfortable when they approach me with a non-price round because I can't take them on the face value, and I'm totally comfortable because the next round, when they are going to be approaching the next investor, I'm on their side, and I get to see their books quite well in detail. So I really know what's right, what's wrong, which I didn't know in the first round. It's a lot more easier to handle once we know that the founder is on our side rather than being on the other side of the table.
True. So one is that probably, and one, a lot of founders discount corporate governance and compliance in the early stage. So we
Huh.
work with, so almost let's say like 80% or like you could say 70 to 80% of our clients are early stage startups,
Yeah.
which are like looking for funds or which has got funded first round.
Mhm.
So those are
Yeah.
the majority of our clients. So I'll just try to restrict because the other people who are like pretty big can hire good consultants than better than me,
Yeah.
to advise them. But I'll just stick to my thing. And so one is they discount the corporate governance and compliance in the early stage ones. They'll be like, Abhishek, we are a very small company. We cannot afford
Mhm.
all this. That is one huge mistake because, as you grow, this will come, much more costlier and it will compound to a great extent. Like
Yeah.
we have seen cases where, for a small mistake, startups have to pay like, a later part of this journey, like, near Series A where
Yeah.
it became a DD point. They put note in DD and they asked the startup to compound the offense, and the compounding costed them about some 3-4 lakhs.
Mhm.
Very small, very let's just a drop down error. They said a wrong option.
Yeah.
So because of it, they had to spend 4-5 lakhs. So
Yeah.
that
That's
so we cannot
unfortunate.
discount. Yeah, very
Yeah.
unfortunate. We felt really bad. But so these are very common than or then a lot of cap table errors. Founders try to become very smart. They'll be like, I want to park my equity in some other company or partnership so that I can save some time. I don't have to hold when it's valued more. I can sell from there and all this stuff. which is again not a good idea. Investors want to see who's involved in the company. They want to, be very clear about it. Because
Yeah.
see, one thing which investors are always, what worried, you cannot say worried, but it's like, they're very, they have a stickler attitude about it. It's like, this is what it is. That's basically the ownership of shares. They
Yeah.
want it, the ownership should be clear.
Hmm.
They cannot afford an iota of doubt on the ownership of shares.
Yeah.
So they're very, precise, and so the even DD teams, if you see work with bigger DD teams, they go, much deeper into the ownership of shares. Whether so let's say there's a transfer happened, the right board resolutions passed, the right entry in the register of, shares have been made, all this they go in depth and check. So
Yeah.
because ownership of shares is something which they cannot, because later at any point of time you can create a, litigation in the court of law telling that the shares is not even rightfully owned by him.
Hmm.
Right? So you
Yeah.
don't want any such risk. So be clear about the cap table. So I'm also planning to write a book on that.
Wow.
Like sometime,
I look forward to that.
yeah, later, I mean, next year.
Yeah.
Like,
The
so,
other challenge which entrepreneurs face is with regard to the convincing the ecosystem, right? Customers, partners, investors. At some point of time, there is lack of confidence which seeps in because you trying banging your head again and again and again. I'm sure you've seen a lot of entrepreneurs who have probably not buckled under the pressure. Any two, three aspects about entrepreneurship which you think are very important for early stage founders? What are the kind of skills they should have even before they decide to start up?
see, this region is very common. What you told is very common. It's one because most of the founders from this region don't come from pedigree, which have been, I think pretty overrated so far. But now things are changing. The VCs also becoming mature. They also understand.
Yeah.
So pedigree is becoming, I mean, has been overrated, but now it is. See, used to tell, my clients here, so being from Coimbatore and without, you don't have a fancy degree or, from a fancy college, you better, have your product creating revenue before even approaching an investor.
Yeah.
Like don't approach investors before you have, your product is generating revenue because nobody is even going to give you an appointment.
True. True.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that is, see, you once you have demonstrated yourself, once you have proved yourself to your customers, then there is no much, validation from a VC required. It's like you just tell them
True.
that, my customers are paying for it. They're happy paying for me, and
No,
I
but
can scale.
Abhishek, I'm saying two steps before that, right? I mean, even before you start, right? No, nowadays kids are always confused about whether to go for a job or to go for entrepreneurship. I come across a lot of B school students who are debating on that. If they want to choose entrepreneurship, what are the two or three qualities which are important? That's all I'm asking.
Okay, okay. I think number one quality is, communication. See, the
Okay,
communication,
that's a good one. Yeah, makes
yeah,
sense.
so, yeah,
Yeah,
communication is, you should know how to communicate what you think.
yeah, yeah,
Right? That is very, very important. A lot of people from this region, at least, because I've been into skill training for a long time of my life.
yeah.
So they are pretty much, they lack communication. I'm not telling English. Right? It's not about English.
Okay.
Communicating what you want to communicate itself is a skill. And
Hmm.
in the right way, in the way in which the listener is going to listen to you, right?
Hmm.
Really listen, get into his head. So all this, that is, I think, first number one. If you don't
Yeah.
have a proper communication skill, then like, it's not going to work.
Right.
And number two, I would say is, being very pragmatic. I think
Hmm.
pragmatism, helps a lot in entrepreneurship. I don't come from privilege, any background, but I know these are my limitations
Hmm.
and had to work through my limitations to reach where I am, today. So
Yeah.
similarly,
Yeah.
I think the pragmatism is very much required. Like people just, mm, sometimes, just think that, if I have money, only money, then I can do great things. No, doesn't the
Uh-huh.
world doesn't work like that. The world is not a fair place. You can tell this is not fair. People crib about it. It's not fair.
Hmm.
It's like world is never fair,
Ah.
right? So they have to, rightfully earn their place, and for which they have to be pragmatic. They should understand their limitations. They should understand where they come from, and
Right.
yeah, I think if they're clear understanding about all that is there, and I think, yeah, these two are the fundamental
Got
qualities
it.
I would say any entrepreneur should definitely have. If these two is not there, he cannot
Yeah.
keep things as it is. Better entrepreneurship is not for him or
Makes
her.
sense. Makes sense. I think that's a very well-rounded view. I know while you come from a finance background, I think you spend enough time with the entrepreneurs and startups to be able to go and see the entire journey as well. For me, the source of inspiration is books, and would love to know if you would have one or two inspiring books that you would want to recommend, which have impacted or influenced your life, and you think that would be good for the listeners to read
Yeah.
as well.
See, in books front, I read I mean, like mostly most of my life I've been reading technical stuff. I still have a lot of technical debt. Things I should learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, good few book. I read a few good books. Say about in my total 50, 60 books in my entire last 4, 5 years. That one book which really I loved was Start with Why by Simon Sinek.
Okay. Yeah.
It's really stuck with me. It in the early stage it was very helpful, really really helpful. It
Yeah.
was many successful companies. The whole idea which I had, to build this consulting firm only focused on venture funded business came from that book. I knew my why the day one thanks to Simon Sinek.
Wonderful.
Uh, that
Yeah.
was one, and uh, then it could be not getting any. Yeah, and Alchemy. Alchemy was a really good book, which is written
Yeah.
by an Ogilvy's ex-VP. Ogilvy's ex-VP.
Rory Sutherland.
Yeah, Rory Sutherland, exactly.
Yeah.
Amazing
Yeah.
book,
Beautiful
amazing
book.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful book. I really loved it. Really
Yeah.
loved it. Like a lot of original thinking. I mean, I've always been, towards original thinking, and
Yeah.
really loved
So
that book.
don't undermine, Abhishek, the fact that you don't read too many books, because I always look forward to recommendations from people who don't read too many books, because then the recommendation is more stronger, right? An avid reader like me, if you ask me book recommendation, I'll just say, this, or this, because I read so many, I have so many recommendations. I would not really think too much before telling you or recommending you a book. But,
It
for
should
people who read,
impact me. For me to recommend you, it should have impacted me. Only then I can even remember that book. Or like it's like I read a lot of stuff day to day. I read a lot of books. Right? It's
So,
always
so
been
your strong book recommendations remain strong, because there are not too many books coming in and challenging those books every now and
exactly,
then. But for
exactly.
me, the strongly recommended keep getting questioned, because I come across more highly recommended, highly recommendable books as well. That makes sense. So, no, great
Same.
conversation, and thanks a lot again, not just for this podcast, but for being a mentor. And this the last question is where I flip the mic around. What's the question you have for me?
I mean, yeah. So I do it. I mean, definitely. So this is the question I had to think about. In the
Yes.
list of things you gave for me. So I saw your TED talk. Amazing, amazing, inspiring
Thank
journey.
you.
Uh, I mean, where do you, so like, what is your hack for the mental metal? I called it a mental metal. So like
Yeah.
doing things at the time you want to do. See, I'm very
Yeah.
bad at it. So I do it. See, it's never that, I mean, I've done it, whatever I wanted to do, I have done it. But mostly or 90% of the times, not at the time which I wanted to do it. It's always been like, 1 hour late or 2 days late, which I
Yeah.
really hate about myself, which I've constantly been working on me. I just like I want to do it at this time. I feel really bad. So I reflect my day every day. So that's
Hmm.
one thing I constantly regret. So I thought, I'll ask a secret. So what is
Yeah.
your secret or hack for
No, I
doing,
think I think there's a right word which you might probably want to ask. I use the word called mental fortitude.
Okay.
So a lot of people go to the gym to build muscles. So for a physical preparation, you go to a gym. For mental preparation, I meditate. And
Okay.
and I believe that and a lot of people look for answers or look for impact of meditation while they're meditating.
Mm-hmm.
What they don't understand is meditation by itself doesn't do anything when you're meditating, but the act of meditation comes to your fore or comes to your support when you are in a state of anguish, pain, uncertainty, ambiguity, and you don't know how to proceed further. The fact that you have that meditative state of mind helps you to calm your horses, cool yourself down, and in just a moment, just a minute or 2 minutes of silence can help you change your perspective 360 degrees on the incident and can give you a better way to respond back, right? Whether it is like, someone banged your car, right? You jump out of the car and you first thing you want to do is, right, get that guy out of the car and out of his vehicle and slam him, right? But if you spare 2 minutes and then you see, okay, the damage is already done, right? You thrashing the other car or you thrashing the other driver is not going to mend your car. The first thing you would want to do is, if it's a car breakdown, then you need to know whether you have the emergency number for your car and for it to be towed or whatever, right? Second is whether your insurance is intact, right? And once you know these two things, you can probably deal with that other guy much better, right? I mean, if he's someone younger than you, or someone very older than you, then you need to address it suitably. And if someone is at your peer level, then you can probably be a little bit more straightforward in your words or whatever you want to do. But end of the day, understand that 2 minutes of silence can actually make a lot of difference in the way you react. I mean, something similar holds true when you're running and you're tired and you planned a 10K, but at 5K you're like struggling, your legs are not going forward. And I would like to cite Simon Sinek, right? I mean, that why should be very clear with you, right? I mean, as long as your why is clear, you will go all the way to the 10K mark. That why is not clear, even to reach that 5K mark would actually be a struggle. And I'm like, the funniest comment I receive from people is, oh, I can't even imagine running a marathon. I said, of course you can't, because you never run a marathon, so you don't know how. You can't imagine something which you're not done, right? It's such a foolish statement to make that I can't imagine, right? But you are saying that without actually doing it. Come back to me, try out, and then come back to me and tell me whether it's now imaginable as well. So I think net the answer is meditation. It gives you that moment of peace, gives you that moment of quietness, and helps you think clearly and see through stuff as well.
Interesting. I've never tried meditation. Probably.
Maybe you can now. You can always try that. Yeah. Great. Thanks a lot, Abhishek. It's been excellent conversation, and thanks again for having spared your time for the podcast and for being a mentor. I'm sure our incubatees and the listeners will learn a lot from this podcast as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So just hold on.